Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the SITREP or summary for the day 1 of the Israeli-Hamas war. Hamas launched a surprise attack against Israel across the entire border of Gaza and Israel, and this conflict in the later part of the day also started to appear somewhat over in the West Bank region, and I'm going to go through the sources here. In terms of the furthest reach, the Hamas forces actually fought all the way to Netivot over here. They managed to come over here to this town. Clashes is being reported at this town as of this current moment. There is also some fighting being reported at Ofakim, on the southeastern part of Gaza. This is a bit unusual because there is no clear indication how the Hamas forces reached there. So there is a possibility that these are actually the airborne forces. There's just a few of these gunmen coming from the Hamas side because they use the paraglider, and maybe this is how they actually managed to fly to this area here and cause havoc in the rear positions of the Israeli front line. There is also rumors of fighting over at Mishma Hanegev, somewhere northeast of Ofakim. This is a bit more unclear because I only have one information from this Telegram channel called Palestine Resist, so I cannot corroborate whether this is correct or not. But Ofakim does seems to be does seem to check out that there is fighting here, but no clear indication how they reached here. So this might be some kind of a commando force, and the furthest reach is actually Netivot. There's also some claims about fighting over at Ashkelon. The one at Ashkelon is probably not accurate. The Israeli forces probably the Palestinian forces probably did not reach all the way to Ashkelon, and even if they did, they probably went back because these are just vanguard forces, and they're probably unable to hold ground. This is as per mentioned by Surya Maps in his Telegram channel. So how would the Palestinians able to even reach Ashkelon? If it's true, it's actually through mainly this amphibious operation through naval landing. The they actually cross over the border. There's actually this fence over here. This fence over here is not going to be easy to cross. So what they did is that they actually went by boat, then they did amphibious landing, and they started to attack outwards from this area here. The force most likely is not going to be very big. Because some of them are actually intercepted by the Israeli forces. According to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, their naval forces managed to defeat some of these Hamas navy, if you like. And according to their information, there is 2 vessels, 2 rubber boats. So given this kind of numbers, or the type of vessel that the Hamas have, is likely to be not a very big force. You can think of it as a special force, or commandos. So they managed to land over here, and they actually attack this settlement of military base called the Zikim military base. Because in the information coming from Palestine Resist Telegram channel, so they mentioned that they are fighting at Zikim military site. Given the observation of the Israel's map, there is some kind of settlement, but then there is another settlement that is unnamed, and this unnamed one tends to be the military site. And it's a bit, the Google Maps deliberately make it blur, so it's a bit hard to identify military vehicles to ascertain that this is actually a military base, but this most likely is because it's just next to Gaza. And in the more of the latest information, we do have the IDF reports that they are combing the beach, and they managed to engage some of these Hamas troops along the beach, and also these are all targeted by Israeli aircraft or probably helicopters. So the Israelis are still trying to cope with the situation right here. They are doing reinforcement and forming mobilization of reserve. They are forming up, regrouping, and probably we're going to see a major Israeli offensive in the next 24 hours. So the first 24 hours, they caught by surprise, and this is actually not very different from the Yom Kippur War, where the Israeli also got caught by surprise by the combined invasion of Egypt and Syria, and the initial attack actually hits Israel very badly, and Israel took 2 to 3 days to actually recover, to regroup, and then launch counterattacks, which Israel successfully, defeat Egypt and Syria at the same time. So I don't expect Hamas to win this war at all, given the records of Israel's military prowess. But this is definitely, a lot of pain, without a doubt. So that's all from the landing over at the Zikim beach. Over this northern crossing at the Israel's checkpoint or crossing, there is fighting being they did manage to break through. The Al-Qassam brigade, because basically the Hamas forces managed to break through the crossing, and they actually killed some of these Israeli troops as well as they penetrate out from this area here. And fighting ensued in the native Ha'asara. So the fighting is basically over here. I haven't seen any reports of them fighting in Erez or further up or over these areas here. There is no reports of such information. The only reports of information was from the ynetnews.com. I believe this is an Israeli news website. They mentioned that the native Hasara was attacked by the Hamas forces. They torched houses, and they also held some residents hostage. They basically abducted some of these Israeli, and this pretty much is the objective, it seems, by the Hamas forces, to abduct or capture some of these Israeli people and actually bring them back into Gaza. And that's basically the operation, which also explains why they did not go very far, which then puts into question, because this attack over at Zikim is a diversionary, because there is definitely some kind of Israeli forces probably in this military base, and they are unable to react and reinforce the crossing region here because they are under attack as well. So then this Hamas forces can actually go in quickly, capture some people, and then go back into Gaza. And that's probably what happened, which is why we don't see any further incursion by these Hamas forces further out, into the other small settlements and villages around this northern part of Gaza. This is probably the reason. And but in the other front lines is sort of different. The first major city over this region is actually Sderot. So the fighting currently is still ongoing at Sderot. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And multiple international media reported about the fighting over here, because multiple footages and people are taking footage and reporting from that town. So there is a lot of information confirming that there is fighting over at Sderot. And Palestinian channels also reported about the fighting over there, and it seems like the latest report still seems to suggest that the Hamas forces are still over in Sderot, and it's unclear whether they actually have control of the entire town yet. I don't think so. They definitely still have some presence over here, and from what I did remember seeing is that the Israeli forces has already entered Sderot with tanks as well. So they are rolling into the village to combat, and they are fighting the Hamas forces within Sderot. So this is one of these more major towns and cities where I think it does requires Israel to capture in order to gain back some PR narrative. What is another interesting thing about this Hamas offensive against the Israeli is the use of paragliders. So Hamas have these paragliders with this parachute, and then but with a big fan sitting behind them, managed to allow them to fly, creating some kind of air force for the Hamas forces. And on top of that, they also utilize drones and like quadcopter drones, the FPV drones that is used in Ukraine as well. They use it to drop mortars and bombs. And one of the footages actually show them very successfully destroy one of the Merkava main battle tank of the Israeli. So these are not these drones are not to be trifled with. And these paragliders acts as some kind of like airborne forces, some like commandos, which is probably explained the fighting over at Ofakim. So so according to some Israeli media, there some special force of the Israeli side was actually injured in the fight against these Palestinian forces and at Ofakim. So the Mishma Hanegev region here, this town here, most likely this fighting over here is also through these airborne forces that landed in this rear region that is causing problems. But however, these are all suicide forces, I believe, because it's very unlikely that they will be able to escape the Israeli attack. They are just there to hold up the Israeli forces from pushing all the way to the front line. And this is actually pretty much similar to mainstream military doctrines, where the commandos are meant to go into the rear, create havoc, and tie down the military, the military defenders from going to the front line or focusing on the front. So this is basically a modern warfare from the Hamas. Just southwest of Sderot, there is a few of these towns getting attacked. Kfar Aza actually still under assault. The fighting is still ongoing according to IDF. The Israeli Defense Forces continue to report that they are fighting over at Kfar Aza. This Kfar Aza was also reported being corroborated by Hamas Telegram channels showing them attacking Kfar Aza. And all these footages of this, Hamas troops or Palestinians seeing all these rows of armored vehicles. Yeah, this is the place, Kfar Aza. There is all these rows of vehicles over here. This is probably where they actually try to storm it. So it's not very far from the border, so they managed to storm this place. But it looks like the Israeli forces has already arrived here, which is why the IDF reported that they are fighting over at this location. But there is some success also for the Hamas side. They did manage to capture Nahal Oz, because this is actually really very close to the Gaza Strip, and basically it was first reported by international media as well as Palestinian media about the fighting over at Nahal Oz, and Palestinian resist also in a separate post mentioned about the seizure of this location over here. So that is captured, and then the other one captured. So the Hamas forces actually attacked this way, and they captured Nahal Oz. Another force actually went all the way to Be'eri, and the fighting is also reported at Be'eri. Be'eri was reported by the Israeli media about the fighting over here. The community and residents are calling for help and everything. And then the Hamas West Bank Telegram channel also reported, also shows scenes of this attack by the Hamas forces. And Palestine Resist reported that the entire settlement has been taken control, with every settler reportedly killed or captured by the Hamas forces. So this is actually pretty serious, where the Hamas forces actually managed to capture the entire of Be'eri. So this is one of these major setbacks or humiliation of sorts. So then we have this fighting at Netivot, but the Netivot one is a bit weird because we didn't see reports of fighting over at Sa'ad or Alumni or Zimrat, or all these settlements was not reported, but somehow Netivot has fighting. So I also suspect that this might also be one of those airborne operations, but so far I put an arrow out. Maybe there is this force that's attacking out. There is a lot of mapping out there that shows some ridiculous capture where the map look like this. Gaza like more than double or triple its size. This is actually most likely inaccurate. Most of it is going to be gray zones or or they are just linking all the dots in a very convenient way. Most likely this is not. These are all probably commandos. These are all probably commandos, and the front line, the real front line, is probably only like this, which is actually makes a lot more sense. This is more likely to be the more realistic view of what is actually happening. And but tentatively, I'm going to map this as this first, this triangle first, and we shall see how the battle goes, and to see whether the Israeli can confirm the positions in all these places. So and then further south west of all these battlegrounds, there is fighting being reported over at the Riem camp. So businessstandard.com reported about this, also by this Hamas Telegram channel also reported about this, about fighting over at the Riem base. So Riem is here, but the base is actually here. So you can actually see some military vehicles. You can see these are military vehicles. So this is actually the camp, and the fighting is being reported over here, but there is no information of any capture of this place. Tentatively, the fighting is probably still ongoing over here, and yeah, the fighting is pretty much like this. I also will not doubt that there's possibilities where the Hamas forces is roaming the land, crossing the countryside, and see what they can actually cause problems in the rear. These are also probably suicide squads. They are just there to do their best to mess things up. And if you saw the famous footages of the big hole in the fence, it's actually happening in the eastern part of Khan Yunis, along this area here. One of this area in the fence, there was a hole being broken up and breached, and that's where a lot of this big hole where a lot of these people just ran out from this area here. They just attack out. But there is no signs of fighting in this area here. Probably there's no Israeli troops around this area here. What we do have is the IDF reported that they launched airstrikes against Hamas troops in this area. In Nirim and near Oz, both being reported to be under airstrikes. So they claim about killing some of these Hamas troops through IDF fighter jets. So a bit of an overkill, and these people that probably penetrate through here went for Magan. So reports of fighting at Magan is being reported by businessstandard.com, and fighting was reported around here. There is not a lot of news reporting talking about the specific of where the fighting is, so which is why there's very limited information about this. Yeah, I have to go through multiple sources and see what I can get, but there is no signs that Magan was captured or the Palestinian forces spread out from this area here. There's no indication of that just yet. Fighting is still being reported at Sufa. According IDF reported that they are fighting at Sufa, Kafar Azza, the Kerem Shalom. Kerem Shalom is here, and then the Palestinian groups mentioned about fighting over at Holit. So it looks like the military base just off the checkpoint at Kerem Shalom did not really exactly fall, despite they have a unit commander that was killed in the fighting over at Kerem Shalom, and there is also probably some of these officers that was adopted from this area here. Probably this Kerem Shalom, but the Israeli seems to have a much bigger force in this area here, and resistance continue in this area here, and they managed to reinforce and continue the fight over in Sufa, Holit, and Kerem Shalom. So in this area here, the Palestinian forces are unable to break through. They are stuck around this front line around here, and that also might explain why the Palestinians did not manage to break out further from Magan, or it could be the case where they are just there to adopt prisoners to bring back into Gaza. So this is pretty much the Gaza situation, and the possible reasons why they did not push out or fan out even more is because they are concentrating only on capturing Israeli people and soldiers and civilians and bring them back to Gaza, because it is within Gaza that's where the Hamas want to fight. They do not want to fight in this open area and Israeli territory. They want the Israeli to come into Gaza because that's where hell awaits. Basically, that's what the traps and everything that is set within Gaza. They want the Israeli forces to invade into Gaza, and it will definitely achieve bigger victories for the strategic or political objective from by Hamas, which I mentioned a lot on the DPA main channel, where I cover the geopolitical situation about this war. So you may want to watch it over at the main channel. So I mentioned earlier, the battle does not only in Gaza. Because of this, because Hamas actually call actions across the entire of Palestine, there's actually a lot more things happening. So first thing first, there is massive shelling. So in the beginning of the war, there's massive shelling of rockets that overwhelms the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is the anti-rocket systems, and there were so many rockets that this air defense system totally unable to cope with, and the bombings was reported all across Israel. So according to Hamas, they mentioned that they fired more than 5,000 rockets in the beginning of this war. So let's see how this goes. They are still firing rockets, but by now I don't think the intensity is there. So it's not going to be as scary as it was in the beginning of the conflict. Within the West Bank itself, there is a lot of uprising. There is a mix of protests. There's a mix of armed violence, stabbings, burning of police posts, burning of buildings. So it is all over the place. And Israeli troops and security forces is being sent into multiple places within the West Bank to deal with all this situation. And in fact, the Hamas side even criticized the Palestinian authorities for sending their security forces to put down some of these protests. So there is some internal politics that's happening within West Bank, among the Palestinian organizations as well. In the Jenin region, there is fighting being reported at the Tura checkpoint. Over here, there is this Tura El Garbiya and the Tura. There's this crossing over here. So there's some clashes being reported here. All this information is coming from Palestinian Telegram channel. So as a result, you have to take this with a pinch of salt, because they can make things up and nobody will know. So you have to take things with a pinch of salt of the situation within West Bank, and do not also over imagine that this is some big offensive, big operation, or guerrilla warfare, massive things. No, it's not that massive. It's smaller, but they are very spread out and are very random. So which actually stretches the Israeli security forces. That's the plan. So there is also some clashes of fighting being reported at Yabat, and according to the information by Hamas West Bank, the fighting is between the Mujahideen and the Israeli forces, which means that the fighting in this area here is all with firearms. This is real fighting. And of course, the Israelis are going to find it hard to capture all these people, because all these places are very very busy, and a lot of places to hide, a lot of buildings, a lot of sympathizers. So it's very hard. Further south, there is fighting being reported at Komesh, where the resistance fighters or the rebel forces, or whatever group that they are in, because the West Bank is a bit different. They are not exactly Hamas. So they fire upon Israeli forces, and further fighting is also being reported at Sebastia. The word they use is armed clashes, but the armed clashes sometimes also is used for protests, riots. So it could be the young people just firing fireworks and throwing stones, and that is also armed clashes. So take this with a pinch of salt. And also at Dayah Sharaf. So Dayah Sharaf is a bit different. There's allegedly one young man, Palestinian man, that was shot by Israeli gunfire. But no, like I said, take it with a pinch of salt. And further south, there is an arrest of this of a man over at Yamat village after some clashes, and these clashes probably refer to rioting. So not fighting, rioting, but it's just possible fighting because there is not enough information to verify that. And West Bank is very big. There's too much information, and it's entirely not important. No, West Bank is not very important until there is some very organized resistance or fighting that resembles what the Gaza side is doing. Over at the eastern part of Jerusalem, there is a riot being reported at Ras Al-Amud, over in the eastern part of Jerusalem, and there is also fighting, a reportedly violent armed clash over at Abu Dis. So, and then there is also Israeli is arresting and attacking Palestinian people over at the entrance of El Izaria, which is also on the eastern part of Jerusalem. So this area here, there is also some clash, but I suspect is more of the protest type, not the fighting, with firearms type. A bit different. Then so this is the central, that's not, that one is the north. So in the southern part we have a bit more, but it seems a bit more initiated on the Israeli side. There is one teenager that was allegedly shot by Israeli and killed in Bet Orma, I don't know how to pronounce that. And there's also fighting or alleged fighting reported at El Fawar, and the one at El Fawar is a refugee camp, and so you can see, this monstrosity. So this refugee camp, Israeli forces opened fire somehow and injured a young man. It's always a young man, of course, So this is the entire SITREP or situation over in Israel and Palestine, and you can see that most of this is just green because this is the first day, and the Palestinians are on the move. But I believe that in the day 2, which is today, we are going to see a lot more Israeli actions and counterattacks, and it's likely they will recapture most of these settlements that's outside of Gaza. I believe without a doubt, Israel will easily sweep through. Then the question will be whether Israel will enter Gaza directly to rescue whoever that was captured and brought into Gaza. So anyway, I saw on Twitter some rumors about the special forces rescuing some of these captured people. I'm not sure. I didn't see it in the sources that I followed at this moment. Depends on how long this war continues. I will slowly collect better sources and replacing those that are a bit more trashy ones, and see how this goes. And hopefully this does not go on very long, because it's just a endless human suffering that is it doesn't resolve itself. It never resolves itself. Nobody want to solve the problem. Thank you for watching. Do check out like I said, do check out the link. You can see the link. Check out the video that I talk about the geopolitical things and the political things regarding this conflict, and I will see you in the next update.